The United States is hoping to deploy new ground-based intermediate-range missiles to Asia sooner rather than later, United States Defense Chief Mark Esper said of a move that could have huge ramifications for regional security. Esper's remarks were likely to raise already soaring tensions with Beijing and add to fears of a new arms race involving the United States, China and Russia. "Yes, I would like to," Esper said late Saturday, when asked if the United States was considering deploying new medium-range conventional weapons in Asia now that Washington is no longer bound by the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, which the U.S. formally withdrew from a day earlier. "We would like to deploy a capability sooner rather than later," Esper said, according to a transcript released ahead of his arrival in Sydney for the start of a week-long tour of Asia. "But with, programs like this, it takes time. You have to design and develop, and test and do all those types of things." Esper did not say where the missiles would be based, but experts have said Asian allies such as Japan and Australia, as well as the U.S. territory of Guam, were among possible deployment sites. U.S. President Donald Trump has pinned much of the blame for Washington's exit from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Agreement on Russian violations of the Landmark Pact. But a closer look shows that China's buildup of its missile forces, which pose a grave threat to U.S. military bases in Japan and elsewhere in the region, also played a large part in the decision to abrogate the 1987 arms control deal. Trump said in October that the U.S. would scrap the 1987 treaty between Washington and Moscow, which banned all land-based missiles with ranges of 500 to 5,500 kilometers. The pact covered missiles, known as short and intermediate range, that can carry both nuclear and conventional warheads, but did not ban air or sea-launched weapons. Washington is now free to compete with China, whose arsenal is largely made up of weapons prohibited under the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, to which Beijing was never a signatory. Esper's comments come amid an increasingly acrimonious trade war between the U.S. and China, as well as a plethora of security challenges facing the two countries. These include a row over freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, where Beijing has built up and fortified a series of islands. Washington has lambasted Beijing for its moves in the South China Sea, including the construction of man-made islands, some of which are home to military-grade airfields and advanced weaponry. The U.S. fears the outposts could be used to restrict free movement in the waterway, which includes vital sea lanes through which about $3 trillion in global trade passes each year. The U.S. military regularly conducts freedom of navigation operations in the area. Esper's signaling of a desire to deploy the intermediate-range missiles to the Indo-Pacific theater is clearly a sign to China that the U.S. decision to pull out of the INF Treaty is not just based on Russia's material breach, but also on China's growing arsenal of missiles in this range. Beijing says it has deployed the advanced weaponry to the islets for defensive purposes, but some experts say this is part of a concerted bid to cement de facto control of the waters. Some regional security experts have even speculated that the Chinese military may be practicing for preemptive missile strikes on the forward bases that underpin U.S. military power in the Western Pacific. Thank you.